Hello, Chris Howard from Lace Partners back in with another one of our HR on the Offensive Live. Welcome to the show and welcome to one of our founders who is making his live stream debut. Aaron, you all right?
Hi, Chris. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm really good. I'm really good. Now, you and I thought we'd jump on and do a very quick 5 to 10-minute live stream based on pragmatic AI. Now, this is a podcast that we've got coming out towards the end of this week. It is a podcast that will come out on Thursday because we delved into a little bit more detail, but something that you and I have been chatting about for a while, actually. We've had a few conversations about HR and what they're doing in the AI space. So I just wanted to get you on for a few minutes and just really talk about some of the sort of the key interesting ways and applications of AI. So that's why we thought we'd do a very quick live stream. So just to kick us off, wanted you to just kind of give us a little bit of a helicopter view, if you like, of when we talk about pragmatic AI, what are we actually talking about? Like what are we talking about in a context of the HR function?
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm very excited about the podcast, Chris. I think it's going to be an interesting podcast to come out this week. But look, I think AI and the concept of machine learning is not new to HR. It's been around for a while. Various pieces of technology claim to use it to various degrees, whether you're in recruitment or learning. There's various AI and machine learning tool sets that have been around for a while. And certainly there's a lot of hype around AI and generative AI in particular, and how that's changing the face of work. And I think the thing that we hear most at the moment is that's all very well, and there's lots of hype and lots of statistics out there in the market. But what does it actually mean as a CPO, as an HR director? What do I need to get ready for? What do I need to do first, and where do I need to focus my energy and my time? And so I think that's really been the focus of our conversation about what do you get ready, what do you focus in on. So and I think we talk about a few things that angles to think about it. I mean, clearly there's changes to the function, maybe over time. That's one of the things that comes up. I think the other is, how you can enhance the experience. So onboarding, how do you make that, a lot faster and slicker and feel a lot more personal using AI to support that? How do you enhance the experience around helping people grow in the organization? Lots of talk around skills in HR right now, and that's a massive place where AI is playing at the moment. Helping people learn and change capability and helping businesses grow and use the best of what they have. And then I think the biggest change point will be the fact that a lot of businesses themselves will be using AI to change the way they deliver work to their clients and their customers. And that will change the organization, it will change the capabilities, it will change the way in which people operate and work, and how they augment themselves with AI will be really critical. And the people directors of those organizations will have to work hard to keep ahead of that trend as it moves at pace.
Okay, cool. So I just wanted to kick off with a bit of an open sort of question, really, because you've laid out some of those three kind of foundations, and it's really around what we're sort of hearing in the market. So what are the sort of questions that HR professionals, senior HR professionals, CPOs, what are they talking to us about, and what's the sort of thing that's keeping them up at night? And there were some advice bits, some of the when we did the podcast, and again, released on Thursday, we'll go into a little bit more detail on that, but just as a little bit of a teaser, what are some of the advice bits that we give to some of the organizations that we're talking to?
Well, I think certainly there's a view and a discussion around shiny toys, always the way with new tech, and it comes out, there's lots of new shiny toys. And I think, as always, the risk is that you flock to those to solve the problems, and some of the underlying elements don't get fixed first. So I think that is one of the things we hear is like, how do we cut through that noise? How do we get to what is the heart of what is really going to add value to our business? How do we use it? We talked a little bit, I think, on the podcast around some of the tools that are being deployed around things like learning and video generation, culture video generation, and learning video generation at pace, which would probably change some of the relationships you may have as a CPO with your providers, your learning providers, as you go forward. How do you navigate recruitment is another discussion that comes up, where applicants are probably using a form of chat GPT. or generative AI to help enhance their letters or their CVs, their applications into you as an organization? And how do you pass through that? How do you get through that to make sure that you actually get to the hub of what's real for the applicant, yet you make that a good process? So there's some real tangible elements to this that people are talking about. I think there's also some practical things we get into in the podcast, right? Around, where do I start? How do I get curious about this? How do I get into experimenting about it? What are the safeguards I need? I think the fear element comes up a lot in conversation around, wanting to embrace it, but worried about the risk. And how do you, as a CPO and an HR function, not only for yourselves, but for the business, how do you help navigate some of that risk and manage that? So some real practical elements that range from everything from policy and governance and all the way through to experimentation and testing things out and getting the learning in your organization to the right level, so you're ready to make the best use of it when it arrives.
Yeah. One of the questions I had, and I think I'd like to delve into some of this learning stuff, because can you talk a little bit around what we've been doing at Lace? Like, we've had Charlie on the live stream, actually, just talking a little bit about his background and also the fact that he's quite passionate about it. And we've really sort of channeled into it, because one of the things I've been thinking about when I listened and read a lot around AI and how's it being applied for HR teams and how can they use it, I often think to myself, and this is why we wanted to do this pragmatic AI, like, okay, if I'm a HR director watching this, or if I'm a chief people officer watching this, what are the things that I can do quickly? What are the, or what are the ways, what are the things that I can do to help implement into my business? And that learning piece was quite an important one that we talked about, kind of raising that awareness internally. And I know you talked about it on the pod around, getting champions in. So can you just kind of reflect on that a little bit and give the people watching this video a little bit of a tidbit as to something quite practical and pragmatic that you can do right now that doesn't involve, right, go away and learn a billion things about every single tech that's out there and do it by the end of this week?
Yeah, no, certainly. But there's lots and lots of content out there. There's no shortage of it in the market right now to access, I think. So one of the things we've been doing here at Lace is curating that content, and Chris, and you and your team have been doing that for us, and that's something that's available to our clients to sort of peruse some of the stuff that is, curated, to make sure you understand some of the best bits that are out there, cut through the noise. I think you mentioned there about establishing champions. I think what we're seeing is organizations recognizing the need to have somebody as a focus point, or people as a focus point, depending on your scale. So who in your organization is a good focus point to take on that mantle, to distill some of that learning and share it, and to look at some of the practical small things that you can do, right? A lot of our clients will, and a lot of you are listening, might be on the Microsoft platforms looking at Copilot. Certainly listening to other clients talk about the fact that they're now using that to transcribe some of their meetings at pace, to turn that transcription of meetings into material that's written up at pace. So that timing that's spent in HR of capturing notes and checking through them, etc. Just being able to move that forward faster using some of that technology that just nudges it along. Certainly, I think one of the things that a lot of the clients have been focused on is, what are the policies you can use and what are some of the technologies. One of our clients has been using the PDF AI tools, for example, which allow you to read through vast quantities of PDFs and distill out the reports and the regulations and the changes to something that is much more consumable than reading through 30, 40, 50 pages worth of PDFs. So there are some real practical things that can be done to introduce it, but also to make life that much easier for you in your organizations, over and above some of the big technologies. I think we talk on the podcast that one of the first things to do is look at what you've got at home, right? Look at what you've got in the office now in terms of technology. What do you have already? Sort of gathering up that material, because most of the technology in the HR marketplace right now have a roadmap that includes AI. So what is it? How's it going to affect you? How can you understand it, and how can you access it?
Excellent. We just wanted to do a very quick, this is a check check-in more than anything else. And of course, we want people to access the podcast, which will go out on Thursday this week. We ran an event. You ran an event last week with David from Fossway, and we got a number of senior HR professionals, and there was a couple of bits that you mentioned when we were talking about it last week, and then earlier on as well. Can you just reflect on some of the discussion points that what were the kind of key points, just as we wrap up today, that they were talking about? I know you were talking about this kind of idea of maintaining the human in AI, or also getting a bit of an overview as to what's the right sort of mindset that we need to have in order to embrace AI. So can you just pick out just maybe one or two, just as we wrap up today, of those discussion points, just as an example of maybe somebody who's a HR professional watching this right now, who might be thinking, well, what about my peers? I haven't been along to a couple of these AI type events. What are my peers talking about? Like, am I alone? Do I need to go out and find a billion pieces of tech? Like, what's the chatter in the market? So just reflect on a couple of the interesting pieces from that conversation.
Yes, certainly. I think there's a few. One, that this is still early days. Right. I think that's one of the themes that comes out. Not many people around the table when we talk are actually experimenting yet on this, but probably about 20%. So it's taking hold, and that means that there are people, potentially some of your competitors, that are already engaged in thinking about how this will change work for them. So it's gathering momentum, I guess, is the feel. I think the second is we quite often do surveys at the start of these to get a feel for the audience and where they are. And probably about 2 years ago, there was quite a lot of fear around the AI side, and people worried about how it would operate and work. What we see now is more excitement about what is coming, but curtailed with a bit of management of risk, right? So how do I manage the risk? This is coming, I understand it, but how do I manage the risk? And so that comes up quite a lot in the conversation. And I think the third thing that comes up is a very clear recognition across the peer group of how do we balance and keep the human in the process, and how do we use AI, if anything, to amplify the human, to augment it, so that personal step in a process that really makes the difference is highlighted, is brought to the front, and using AI to help really focus that. So that's quite a big discussion point in a lot of these peer group discussions.
Yep, certainly. Brilliant. Okay. So like I said, very, very quick jump in live stream we thought we'd do today. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Please feel free to join us. We tend to go live every single Tuesday. So if you fancy joining us, normally it varies when we're going live, but it's normally in the afternoon. You can check out the podcast, as we mentioned as well. So feel free to access that, HR on the Offensive, wherever you get your podcasts. But Aaron, thank you very much just for the quick whistle stop tour today.
Yes, no, pleasure.
Brilliant stuff. And hopefully we can catch you next time on the HR on the Offensive Live. Haters.